So today we're going to create a circle kaleidoscope. So a kaleidoscope is just basically a pattern that repeats in a mirror image of itself around a center point. So you can make a kaleidoscope in a circle, you can make it in a square, a triangle, anything that has radial symmetry, you can make a kaleidoscope from. We are going to be doing a circle today. To be able to do that, we have to start with a piece of a circle that we can reflect or make a mirror image of. So to be able to do that, we're going to first draw a circle, cut it out. We're going to fold it in half twice, open it up, fold it in half twice again. And then from that, we'll have 8 pie pieces in that circle, and we'll cut out one of those pie pieces and we'll make our design on that one pie piece. And then that one pie piece will be reflected or mirror imaged around a center point, recreating a circle with that design, and that'll make our kaleidoscope. So let's get started. So we're going to start by making the circle, and I want as big of a circle as I can make. I think that'll work. Maybe. Paper's moving around a bit. Okay, so I have my circle. You probably can't see it there, but it's there. It's real light. So I'm just going to cut that out. All right, so we have our circle. We're just going to take that circle and we are going to fold it in half. Once. And we'll fold it in half again. Twice. And then I'm just going to fold each side back on itself. So we end up with a pie piece, or pie pieces. We'll end up with 8 pie pieces when I open it up. So we have 8 pie pieces. So now I'm just going to cut one of those out. And if you mess up, you have 7 more tries. So it's not too big of a deal. Or you can take each of these pieces and make a different design on each of them and make yourself 7 different kaleidoscopes that are all the same size. Okay, so I didn't cut perfectly straight. I'm just going to try to trim that up so it's a little bit straighter, because that little extra will affect the roundness of my circle. The same thing on this side, I can see I need to trim just a little off. Okay, so that's probably as good as I'm gonna get. There's my pie piece, okay? So on that pie piece, I'm gonna make half of my design. So I'm just gonna take that pie piece and I'm going to fold this also in half, kind of like a taco. So I have an even skinnier slice. All right, so now I have this tiny little slice. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to draw my design on this tiny little slice. So that's what we're gonna do now. All right, so I have my pie piece and I'm gonna make a design on it. You don't want it too complicated. well, you don't need to make it too complicated, because as it repeats, it's going to create new designs for yourself. So you do want to do this in pencil. It's possible to do it with a pen, it just makes it a lot harder. So I like to make roads, or what I call roads. Just simple designs. All right, so I think that'll do it for right now. So that's my design. I can open up my pie piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it so my design is on the inside. Okay, so this may be a tricky part. If you have a light table, a phone, a window that you can put the piece of paper on, and it'll help you see the lines better if you didn't draw them dark enough. But if you draw them nice and dark on the inside, you should be able to see the back of them and be able to trace. Probably can't see it on camera, but let me trace what I can see. So I want to go right over the same lines I drew. I'm pressing with a bit of force. And what should happen is that when I open it up, you can see here's my original drawing, and here is the mirror image of what I just drew when I pushed on the back of the paper. The graphite from here transferred to the opposite side. So I'm just going to do that for all my lines. Make sure they all transfer. Having a light table, or you could use your phone to put this piece on, since it's so small, would probably be the easiest thing to do. Okay, let's see if it all transferred. All right, so most of it transferred. You can barely see, but all I'm going to do now is go over all that so I can see it well. You can see some parts where it did not transfer well. It doesn't not have to be perfect, but the closer you get, the better. Because we're going to be doing this process over and over and over and over again, 8 times total. All right, so with just a few lines, you can see we made a design. This should work out pretty well. Oh, I forgot to put that little corner there. But we made a pretty simple design that we should be able to use to create our kaleidoscope. All right, so now I have a sheet of paper. I'm gonna put a dot where I think the center of the paper is. So probably right about there. Now what I'm going to be doing is transferring this design around that dot. So I'm just going to place the very tip on the dot, and then I'll trace both sides. And then when I'm done, I'll have this image on this nice new sheet of paper. And so I'm gonna have to do that 8 times to create my kaleidoscope. So let's start time number 1. So to make it just a little bit easier to keep track of where I am, I'm gonna put a little dot at this corner and a little dot at this corner. That way, when I move my piece, or if I do move my piece, I know I can just line up the point and the 2 corners with those 2 dots, and my image will be in the same place. So when I move it to the next side, I can line this up and I can line this up, and I know it should be in the right place. And I can continue to do that all the way around. So let's copy this first image. If you have a piece of masking tape, that's going to make this process a lot easier, because you can put a little piece of tape on the end and it will keep your pie piece in place. And it makes it a lot less tedious, I guess. So I am pressing hard, making sure that I cover all the lines that I created on the other side. Also trying to keep this in the same exact spot. Now I have to trace over the other side. All right, so that should be all. Oh, so I forgot to trace this right here. So let me go back and line it up with my dots, make sure everything's at the right spot. And that happens if we forget to trace a piece, and you just have to go back and put it in. All right. So you can barely see it there, but my design is there. And so I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to darken it in right now. I'm just going to continue to trace. So I just put all the graphite down on this side. So I'm going to flip it over since there's fresh graphite on there. I'm going to line it up with my dots. And then I'm going to do it again. So line it up, line it up. All right, so now I have my second pattern, and you can see the design starting to come through. I'm still not gonna go over it to make it darker. I'm gonna do that at the very end and just make sure everything joins up and looks really good at the end. So again, I just traced this side, so now I'm gonna flip it over and trace that side and line it up with my dots and do it all again. All right, when we're done, I'll flip it again, do the same thing. So as you're tracing, depending on the quality of your paper, you might find that your paper starts to rip through where you keep tracing over and over and over again. So that can be an issue. But if it does happen, there's workarounds. not the end of the world, especially if you have half of it already traced. Because if you have half of it already traced, so I have half of the kaleidoscope done now. I've traced this piece 4 times over. And so you can barely see it on there. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to darken half of this in, because sometimes after tracing this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, this piece will rip or break and you can't use it anymore. So I'm just going to show you how to complete your kaleidoscope without having to have this piece. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So basically you're just going to darken in everything on this side so we can transfer it to the other side. The only thing I don't like about this is that I like to trace over all my stuff in pen. So when I color it's even cleaner. All right, so there is half of my design. So what I'm going to do now is fold my paper along that line so that I can repeat the same design. So this is going to be tricky. So it looks like I got it right in the middle. That's where I want it. Make sure the crease is good. And then I'm gonna flip it around and refold it the other way. So my design is on the inside. That feels like I got it right. Open it up and make sure. Looks like it's in the middle still. So now I can see it, but you probably can't. I can see my design on this side, so I'm just going to trace the back of that. Before I do, I need to sharpen my pencil, and I'll be right back. So my pencil is nice and sharp again, so now I'm going to go ahead and trace, or retrace, again, my design. So it transferred just fine, so I'll just keep doing that all the way around. So now I'll trace it one last time. All right, so I've traced all of it. As you can see, the ends are still open because that's where my piece ended. So I can just make up however I want it to end. and close it off so it's ready to color. So I have my design. Now I can think about coloring it. Okay, so there is a circle kaleidoscope. We just made it by repeating a pattern over and over and over again. We came out with a neat design. Hope you guys had fun with that. See you in the next one.